have a tendency to think less and worry about your problems less and be more concerned about how you can help others. So it's kind of something that you have to give them in little doses. They don't get to hear it very often. But, again, it reminds them that they can make a difference in someone else's world. Self-reflection as a parent. Removing your negative childhood experiences from parenting. You're unknowingly carrying forward possibly negative self-reflection. Now, I'm the fourth of 5. As I said, I have 17 nieces and nephews to learn from. I have had 2 parents. I went back. I was a history major too, so this was a good thing for me. I went back into the history of how they were raised. I talked to not only my parents' friends, but my grandparents' friends to find out what they liked and didn't like, and learned from those experiences what worked, what didn't work, and brought them forward. It's kind of important to use self-reflection because it's never too late to change the way we parent. And as they get older, we get to do it less and less, so we can have limited opportunities. But it's always a good idea to think about how we can benefit them and they can benefit from us. So the next chart, power influence, through suggestions, words, thoughts, leading to beliefs, behaviors, and either success or failure. This is a chart my daughter likes to post on her mirror whenever she's going out for a club or she's trying out for a team or whatever it is she's doing. It might be a certain test. And she goes through and determines what it is, fill in the blank, that's going to get to the success level. And that may be why she has anxiety this week. I don't know. Because she's actually achieving everything she sets out to do. And Jen and I were talking before class, and I said, do you think it's the hunt that's the fun part, or do you think she really wants all this stuff? And she goes, yeah, because, she's going to Barcelona this summer. She's been accepted to a school there, and she's like, I don't know if I want to go away for a whole month by myself. So it's like, okay, it was really fun applying. You're really thrilled to be accepted. Oops. So using that with caution. But this is actually a great way to influence the way they think and put them into a positive frame of mind to achieve the things they want to achieve. This next slide, tips for students, is something I hand out to every stress management class I teach them. It's learning your teacher. Again, it goes back to talking to them, finding out whether they're the visual learner, auditory, or whatever. I recommend them using a tape recorder if possible with the teacher's permission. Also taking pictures of the board if they're visual learners, so they actually can see what it was they saw in class. They've all got cell phones. They all have cameras. It takes just a second. They can go home, and then they know what kinds of questions to be asking if they miss something. Expanding your circle of friends. Now, this goes back to 5 years back, where we are today, and 5 years forward. Just because you didn't like somebody 5 years ago back in 8th grade or 7th grade doesn't mean they're not going to be a nicer person today. Look at yourself. What were you like 5 years ago? And oftentimes I'll just say, okay, close your eyes. Remind me again what you liked to eat 5 years ago, much less who were you 5 years ago. And all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, I didn't eat salad 5 years ago. I mean, there's so many things that evolved in a 5-year period, and it's this and they just, So give these other people a break and try and be friends with everybody. It never hurts to have enough friends, and maybe you're a friend that, they can learn from. So, again, avoiding the negative people, though, they can see and hear that. That's through observation. So they can learn by observing if somebody's having a bad day. And it goes into, I guess we'll go into it in a minute, but it's basically a tip for students. It's basically figuring out how to communicate with people. We're going to go into friends, parents, teachers. It's actually verbal communication. It's not just texting, and they tend to text versus talking anymore. I mean, I thought it was great when they had a cell phone because they were off my thumb. Now it's like, it's so quiet. Why is that? And there's no emotion attached to texting. So a friend can miscommunicate, and they get all freaked out. Or a teacher is going to get a message and not completely understand because of a typo. There's many ways of miscommunicating. It's better face-to-face and talking it out. Exercise exercising again, 20, 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week, the serotonin booster I talked about earlier. Knowing you have choices, they tend to, again, when we were talking about risk management in this issue, great examples for several pages of Austin teenagers making some crazy choices. Thinking long term. You know, how many of us thought about getting a tattoo, and aren't we glad we don't? You know, it's kind of like, what were we thinking? I don't know. So, big picture, long term, not just today or maybe next year or the year after. There's many, many years to come. So in the choices that they make, how's that going to impact them? Who's going to notice? Who's going to be grateful for the fact that they didn't do something as much as what they did do? Another way of looking at things, and again, it's a change of perspective, is looking at your teacher as a future boss. When they get out into the real world, your teachers are similar to your boss. You don't get to pick them. You need to learn to work for them. They're going to give you an assignment. You need to be able to complete the assignment. You need to be able to understand what they're going for. If you're working with peers, for example, in a study group or whatever, just like in the real world, you don't get to pick the people you work with either. You need to learn to get along and communicate with those people. And you need to work together as a team to be successful. And I recommend study groups for a lot of people. Some people find it distracting. Others actually find it very useful. So, again, we're talking individuals. I'm not talking 10,000-foot level in this particular case. Your kid needs to figure out what is beneficial for them, what's going to make them successful for their boss, who, by the way, they only have 4.5 months out of the year, possibly 9, and then they go on to a new boss. So, you know, it's again adapting and adjusting their way of thinking to the way they're being managed. It's a tool. So tips for parents. I can't tell you how many friends I have who send their kids off to college that don't know how to do their own laundry or even make their own sandwiches. I still make my kids sandwiches, but they know how to make a sandwich. They just prefer my sandwiches for some reason. We call it Mommy Magic. Mommy Magic sandwiches still taste better than their own sandwich, but they know how to make a sandwich. They know how to heat up a bowl of soup. They know how to throw salad together. We need to let them go, because when they get to college and they don't know where to put the detergent in the dispenser, it could be a problem when they're calling you from 500 miles away. So, I'll be Skyping you. Okay, tell me what to do. So, in Anna's case, a great factor was I didn't assume anything. I didn't trust her. She told everybody she wasn't going to harm herself. I wasn't buying it. It's kind of that mother's intuition that kicks in and goes, not so good. So I had what was called the Other Mother Network. And the Other Mother Network is not necessarily just other mothers, friends of mine who know my daughter, but her friends. I had a friend of hers who had dog sat for me. I let her keep the key to my house. You know, there's a certain point where trust factor has to come in. If I wasn't home and we got a message from Anna that might have triggered some thought in some of our heads, what was happening, I needed to be sure somebody could get to her. So she did text something funny one day, and it just didn't sit right with one of her girlfriends, who immediately let her mother know, who's one of my closest friends. And they rushed over to my ex-husband's house and banged on the door and basically kept it, what was happening, from going on. So, you know, she chose a pill that wasn't going to kill her, but, you know, in her brain at the time, she thought that was going to do her in. She was done. She was done. It was dark. It was heavy. It was terrible. And the Other Mother Network came to the rescue. Now, that might seem to you to be maybe a burden on her friends, but these are friends they've had since 3rd or 4th grade. They care and love for her. They still care and love for her. They keep track. They're all still near and dear friends. That is not a burden to them. They would have felt awful if they had done nothing. Now, when you create another Mother Network for your children, remember not to shoot the messenger if they come to you and tell you something negative about their kid. I have a few friends who I know things about their kids that I can't share with them because I know the reaction is not going to be beneficial to the child or me. So sometimes you have to weigh that out and determine what's the best way to approach that person. But again, you know, it's all because we care. Those extra eyes on your kid are, you know, hugely helpful. So I'm an advocate. I'm happy to be everybody's friend. I still, you know, that I'm the other mother for. And I actually, that's my signature, YOM, your other mother. So I sign off all the time, your other mother, just checking in, whatever it is. You know, they need to know that there's another voice that they can get opinions from that's not necessarily their parents. And it does help. So just having that in your thoughts. Realistic expectations, boundaries, and discussions, again, as I said. I never tell my kids to go for A's. I found that if I just say you're going to be happy and healthy, that's all I ask. Especially going through the older child's experiences, I know that things will be okay no matter what. It was as if we were here a year ago, or I guess it was last month, we had the college counselor telling us there's 4,000 schools out there. How many kids are at this school? 1,200? I mean, how many schools could they possibly choose from? So I never worry about, you know, the grade aspect of it, and I still have the child who's going to be doing all the Ivy League classes she can get her hands on, but it doesn't mean she's not going to go to U of O and be perfectly happy. She knows she's probably going to be doing 2 to 4 years after that, so I'm perfectly happy with whatever she ends up with, but happy and healthy is foremost. And then, when they're happy and healthy, what follows? Good grades. Because they're happy and healthy. They don't have all this stress on themselves. They lighten up enough to let the information in, and they manage their time differently. They make time to relax, and that makes them actually a little more thought conscious of all these other things. So, teaching empathy. Focusing on someone else. I think I mentioned that my daughter's running that half marathon. That's in honor of an old neighbor we had who died of leukemia a couple years ago. But it's teaching them to walk in the other person's shoes, and especially around here. So I think we've had, you know, days where we have bullying, and I always say to my kids, if you ever see that happen, or you have it happen to you, the best answer is, wow, you're having a bad day, what can I do for you? Or let me know if there's something I can do for you, and then walk away. Because it's really not your problem, it's not a reflection on you. There's something going on in that kid's world, whether it's a sick parent, a sick sibling, financial issues, they're having issues with their grades and learning. Doesn't matter. 99% of the time it has nothing to do with the child that they're aiming at. So you need to learn to put that into perspective. Because that can be a real burden on kids when they start taking everything personally, and around here all the time. Again, back to self-esteem and trying to fit in. So, praising. It's giving a bit of your heart versus a piece of your mind. We forget how to communicate to kids, and praising is one of them. I have another one that I teach, hypnobirthing, which is a natural childbirth class using hypnosis. And Marie Mongan's the 80-year-old founder of the process. It was a process she came up with when she had her 4 kids on the East Coast. It's called Be a Good Parent, Not a Good Patient. And this is what a tool I did not have and needed to understand, which was I needed to do the research. I needed to be my child's advocate. And it took time to get to that point where I need to know where I can't help with depression or anxiety or stress. Maybe someone else can. And then you find a professional. So that's a really good thing to remember, is that we can't do it all and be it all. And sometimes our kids can't hear us. That's another thing about the Other Mother Network, is sometimes you can feed information to one of their friends or to another mother or father, whoever it is that could be their mentor. And they get the message from them, and you could have been saying it for the last year and a half. And it's like, no. How many times have we gone through that?
Too many.
So, in praising, praising is really important. There's a racehorse you need to learn about. It's called Zenyatta, Race on Praise. 60 Minutes did a great story on her. So look that up. Encouraging them, try new things. I know there's a lot of things that they're already doing. But, you know, if someday they come to you and say, I want to go bungee jumping, and that's not for you, but you just say, okay, and nod your head. Great. Yeah, that's great. You want them to go out there and try new things? all, make sure that Mom has enough pizza for everybody. If they're coming to that person's house, just give her a call and offer to bring one by. And she'll go, oh, aren't they at your house? So, yeah. And it's learning not to judge them. Again, it's instead of them going to someone else's shoes, it's you get into their shoes. Find out what their day might have been like and why they're feeling the way they're feeling. And tap into that. It's also learning how to say things differently. No, don't, can't, wouldn't, shouldn't, don't do that. Whatever it is, those are all negatives. Typically, if you have a negative, it takes 5 positives to get that out of their heads. So learning to rephrase. So preferring, I would like to suggest, I prefer, have you considered doing it this way? And then I've given you a sheet of guidance, basically websites for you to do your research if you'd like to on different ways and places to get information. Dr. Oz is obviously Western medicine, who's open to different experiences. If you want, you have like, do I have 5 minutes? Oh yeah, okay. I want to give you a sense of what it feels like to actually relax. So again, I'm going to ask you to close your eyes for a moment. And taking a deep breath in, allowing yourself to practice that deep breath we talked about, filling your lungs up, slowly letting it out. Now imagine a warm beam of light, any color you want that beam of light to be. And as you're feeling that warm beam of light coming up at the top of your head, I want you to imagine it spreading out over your face, over your eyes, your ears, relaxing your jaw, all the muscles around your mouth, down your shoulders, down your neck, relaxing every muscle. Spreading down your arms, your chest, your stomach. This warm beam of light can follow you all the way down your hips, feeling your legs feel more relaxed, heavier into the seat of your chair. Spreading down over your knees, your thighs, your calves, relaxing every muscle, down to your feet. Breathing in positive signs, calmness and serenity. Exhaling any negativeness or tension that might be built up in your body with each breath out. Now I'd like you to imagine your favorite place, whether you've been there before or want to go. Imagine there's a hammock there. Climb in the hammock. Feel it gently sway. And now look up at the sky. I want you to smell the air. Feeling comfort, relaxation, and serenity again. Each exhalation more tranquil, more peaceful. And now I want you to hear the sound